I'm so happy to be joined by Trent Green, who works his butt off. Just seeing this farm when I drove in, tons of equipment, and you've had a heck of a career so far since you graduated from Purdue University, so congratulations.
Appreciate it.
So take me through, how does one, in your opinion, get involved into farming or agriculture in Indiana? Obviously, a lot of the stuff we grow in Indiana tends to more go to animals than humans, but we still we're one of the biggest states in agriculture, so how does one get involved?
I would definitely say it depends on what stage of life you're in. I started young. I grew up around it, family farmed, a couple hundred acres of row crop. We run equipment from the 80s. So I had a small taste of it, nothing at this large scale at a young age. I got heavily involved with our FFA chapter in high school. I did everything from soils judging, crops judging, to livestock. That gives you a good kind of foundation of what it is, gets you involved with the agricultural world, because there is a lot more to it than just farming from many different aspects and very different, ways you can work in agriculture but not necessarily be on a farm. But then my journey into Purdue, just kind of growing up around it, FFA, I knew I wanted to do something in agriculture, so I went into Purdue. I did a double major in agribusiness and ASM, Ag Systems Management. I'd actually gotten an email from one of the advisors that these guys were looking for help, for fall help, and I know we still send stuff out at Purdue because we're always using Purdue students, and that's how we use our fall help to be able to get through harvest. I worked for them for a summer as kind of like an internship right around when COVID started, and just kind of stayed. I worked all through college, and with COVID, everything was online, so I spent most of my time out here. I graduated from Purdue in 2022. I worked my first year at Corteva Agriscience down in India at their global headquarters, and I did some supply chain work. That's agriculture. They're working with the chemicals that we use here, but a lot of what I was doing was just more allocation, project management, stuff like that. So very different kind of line of agriculture. You're working with the products, but you're kind of, more corporate, working in the office, meeting planning, emails, stuff like that. After about a year of that, I realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, and I kind of wanted to be somewhere close back to doing what I'm doing, customer relations or working with farmers directly. After kind of talking with a few people, was going to do some precision stuff. I ended up just deciding to stay doing what we're doing, had kind of an opportunity that worked out. We picked up quite a bit of acreage, and it worked out to open up a spot for me here.
Wow. And a lot of people, obviously, I feel like, for a lot of young people, specifically young men, which we could go more into detail on that, but we'll just keep it young men. There's a lack of, does it even matter to work hard in America anymore? Is there opportunities for me? Does anybody care about me,
Yeah.
From many different problems. But one of them is, I feel like, lack of motivation, I think is a good way to say it. So in your opinion, what would you kind of say on that topic?
I think that is a huge talking point, just because I think it's really hard. There's very different classifications of people in the way that they work. There's people who are going to take the victim route. They think the world's out to get them. They think that nothing's ever going to go their way. And then there's other people that are a little bit more like myself, that is, you realize at a young age, if you want it, you got to go get it. I don't come from a family of wealth. Again, I work with this family, so you may see millions of dollars worth of equipment just in the shed. I don't own this. I'm not going to inherit this. So I knew if I wanted it, I got to go get it. I bought my house right out of college. I worked all through college. I had my fair share of going to the bars, having a little fun in college, but most of my time I was working. I would get up in the morning, haul loads of corn at 4 o'clock, make it back to class for an 8 a.m., and then come back out to work after I was done with classes. So
and drink at Harry's after.
Oh yeah. So and if I don't get to Harry's till the last hour before they close because we're trying to finish up work. So there's that sacrifice of you got to live life a little bit. I mean, I struggle with that sometimes, of understanding that you have to live while you're alive. But I kind of take those sacrifices and I go, you got to work at it. And as somebody who there's no bailout, there's no safety net. If you fail, you're on your own. So just kind of having that drive to go, I want to get ahead, having that just outlook of, in 30 years, 50 years from now, where do I want to be? That's where I started getting into trying to buy real estate and investment properties, which they have their ups and downs as well, but just trying to find different ways to make money. I mean, during the height of COVID, I started getting into a little bit of like day trading realized it wasn't for me. I made a little bit of money, lost a little bit of money. I said that I can't do that. That's not for me. Let's find a new avenue to try to make money. But that's where everybody's going to be different. There's always something out there. And if you have the drive and you have the willingness to try, and that's probably 90% of it, people just don't have the ability to stick to something when they're not seeing the results. I do this all day long. I go to the gym every single day. Those results take a while to build. Same with TikTok. I've built quite a following on TikTok. Started off, people make fun of you. People say, "Oh, yeah, you're just trying to be some star, whatever." And then, 5-6 years of me doing it, I've got about 90,000 followers, and it pays me. I make money. So, and once you start to get there,
you make $10 million a year.
Yeah, I don't quite make that. That would be awesome. But it's just one of those things. As you start to see those results, you can kind of look back and go, "Yeah, that hard work, I did that." Versus, if you just expect everything to be handed to you in this country, you're going to struggle, and that's just that's not going to work. And there's a reason that we are kind of in the position we are. There's a lot of the people in this country that believe everything should be free, everything should be handed to you, everything's a right, while the others, have a little bit more of that foundation of, yeah, it's hard, life is hard, but you have to persevere, you work through it, and that's kind of that's kind of where we're at.
Definitely. And it's the things I feel like that you stumble in by accident. Yep. Like when I started this podcast, I never thought I'd be the week before senior year of college interviewing you in the people you work for's garage with $1 million of equipment behind us. So yeah. I totally agree with what you mean by that, but I think purpose is a big one too. If your goal is to just get on Polymarket and bet on the Chicago Bulls, how about you buy some stock of the Chicago Bulls owner and where he has his investments?
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
by the way, I'm not a lawyer or a financial advisor.
Yeah, don't take advice from me either.
Unless you want to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, then you'll get yourself some money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can tell you my life story and I can tell you how I did it, but it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. And there's probably easier ways to get a lot further than where I've gotten. A lot. It's hard because I hear people that say, "Oh, you're so successful," but yet at 26 years old, I feel like I'm really far behind. Just in the state of where we're at farming-wise, I'm wanting to start getting my own farmland. I'm wanting to start, trying to go down that avenue. But when farmland is being basically pressured by data centers, solar fields, housing divisions, these guys, they'll pay 3 times what that land will ever be able to make producing crop. So you can't compete in that. And then when the neighbor, a county over, sold out to a data center, they have 2 years to spend that money. Otherwise, they're going to have a huge tax liability. So they can come in and they can pay $3,000 an acre, more than what the ground's worth, just because they need to spend money. And a guy like myself, it doesn't pencil. It doesn't make sense. It never will. So that's kind of where some of the struggles are in my line of where I'm headed, where I'm wanting to go. It's just one of those things I'm trying to figure out, how do you make that work and overcome that. But yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to go into that topic. So you basically sealed the deal on how they're willing to pay a lot of money per acreage. All sorts of companies from, I'm sure, OpenAI, Data, CoreWeave, Amazon, you name it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard because you can't necessarily blame a guy, right? If somebody's waving $60,000 an acre in front of you, you go, okay, yeah, I can sell 400 acres and I can go buy 1,000. You can over double the size of your farm overnight. And for you and your family, that probably makes a lot of sense. And, it's hard for somebody to go, wow, yeah, if I was in that position, I would absolutely say no. Now, me personally, I value the land, and I would like to say that morally I never would sell out to those. But, everything kind of has its grounds. I mean, we have a lot of windmills out here in the county, and a lot of people would probably say they hate those. Me personally, I don't necessarily mind them. I don't think that I don't think they're necessarily the answer to the problem they're trying to solve. But the contracts with them, I mean, they pay $10,000 a year just to stand there. And they don't really hurt anything in terms for us. I can farm around them. I can still go about my day around them. They don't change anything. So
is that 10 grand like per
windmill?
Okay.
Per windmill. And actually, the new contracts are actually coming for more, where they're actually pushing towards 20. So basically, every year they're going to cut you in.
So on 1,000 acres, that's about...
Depends. Well, it depends on whatever. So it's per windmill on the farm. So say we have an 80-acre field that's got 2 windmills on it. That's per windmill, say 10 grand each. That's 20 grand. Or say they were paying 20 each. That's 40 grand just for them to be on there. and you can still farm around them. You can still function as you need to. There's basically a lane and 2 windmills. So it doesn't really disrupt you, and if you're a guy like myself, that's actually going to look beneficial because every year that windmill is helping pay down that mortgage a little bit. So that's actually kind of one of those trade-offs where you're like, those windmills might help me get where I need to go, and it might make my life a little easier because even if the crop isn't quite where it needs to be paying everything, I've got the windmill money coming in as well. So that's kind of the nice thing about those, whereas like solar, you can't farm under solar. You can't really farm around that at all. It's basically just fenced in and it's grass. So, that is the trade-off of solar to wind, but not advocating for anything, just saying that
better than data center.
Yeah, that's where we're at is, we have them, we don't hate them, but it's not a data center and it's not a solar field taking up good ground. So.
Wow. Well, I always like to end every interview with 3 fireball questions, not fireball shots. Although if I interviewed you on Purdue's campus, off campus, I live in an apartment, I probably would have given you a fireball shot though. But one of them is, where did you live your freshman year at Purdue?
My freshman year at Purdue, I lived in Tarkington 460, right next to the Wiley Food Court, basically. So facing the track.
Wiley 115.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Non-air conditioned, so that was a brutal.
That alone means even if you won $100 million lottery, me or you tomorrow, I think after going through a year that you deserve whatever comes your way in life.
Yeah.
Especially for all you IU students. I've seen your worst storm. I should say online. I have no desire to go down to IU. Sorry. I'm now sounding a little bit like Tucker Carlson when I speak about an opinion. But anyways, not going down to IU. But if you're at IU, congrats on getting some nicer dorms.
Yeah.
Purdue's now building nicer dorms after I'm out of it and an upperclassman and soon to be graduating.
They're building plenty of dorms. I'm sure everything will be nice and luxurious, and they'll start tearing down all the old stuff soon enough.
I want everyone to go through that lifestyle.
Yeah, it builds a little character.
Amen. And then my second fireball question is, what is your favorite thing to drive? Combine?
Well, I spend most of my time in a semi, and I have the last one that's still a manual transmission.
Do you have your CDL unlike some of the people driving on the highways?
So technically, driving for farms, you don't need it. Legally, you do not need a CDL to haul for farms. You have a limitation of you can drive 100 or 150 mile radius away from the farm. But I do have a Class A. Yep. I interned with Nutrient Ag Solutions my junior year, and that was before they changed the regulations. So I was able to get mine done in a day instead of having to do the week-long class that you do now. So, yeah, I got mine basically right before the cutoff.
Congrats. Interesting. So truck is probably one of the
I spent a lot of time in truck. Combine, Chad's dad used to run it all the time, and so I'd get a little bit of seat time, run a field or so. It's fun. And then tillage is kind of where I stay. Basically in the fall, I spend about 2 weeks, and I just live in a tractor and just kind of my own peace, a little bit of, I guess, seclusion.
And then that leads me to my last question. What's the longest you've ever been at the farm? I'm not going to ask you how long you've been behind the wheel ever at a farm, but what's like the longest you've ever been here without going to your house for a night?
I think the record.
Hours?
Oh, I think the record of running straight. No, I mean, if we went by not going home, I guess that would be different because I did sleep on the couch in the shop one night. But the longest that I ran was like 46 hours straight in a tractor. Basically, we were kind of running.
Sleep?
Trying to outrun the weather. No sleep. Just 46 hours straight and running with
I
nothing
better never hear a
caffeine.
pilot complain ever because you can put that on autopilot. And
well, we have auto steer, and you're bobbing up between the.
Sorry, pilots.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably pretty similar, but they beep at you when you kind of get close to the end. So if you're almost out of it, you kind of wake back up, turn around. So luckily, we haven't had anybody go through a roadway and rip that up, and that's a bad deal. I've known people that have had that happen where people have fallen asleep, go across the road, and these machines, they'll just take the road with it. So
this is actually good advice then. If you're in a car, don't assume that the combine is awake or can see you. That's actually a very good thing for farm safety. Yeah. So please don't think just because the tractor is bigger than your sedan that it can see it, or even your Ford pickup truck.
And there may not even be a person in these tractors anymore. We are, Deere's got some fully autonomy stuff going. A friend of mine I lived with at Purdue works for Sabanto Ag, and that's what they do is full tractor autonomy. There's more on like the turf grass and orchard side right now, But yeah, I mean, you could be just watching a tractor go across the field and there's nobody in it. It's completely doing its own thing. I've seen people that have kind of started implementing it where they can turn on a tractor and it runs all night by itself. So you hope the safe fails work. And they are pretty sensitive to where if there is any issue, it should just shut itself down and wait for somebody to come out there. But you never know. You know, a solar flare can throw all that off. A year ago, we were planting, and solar flares had our GPSs so mixed up that it couldn't find the lines. We were over planting on stuff that we'd already planted, and we just had to shut down for the night because it was a disaster. So small stuff like that can mess with technology.
So pay attention if you're driving.
Yeah.
Well, Trent, I appreciate you coming on the show and letting me come out here to interview you. Any last piece of advice?
No, if you're going to Purdue, it's a great college. You know, take as much as you can from it, and you know, just always explore your options when you're out of school. You know, you gotta do what's best for you. And I would probably advise the money is always great, but do something that you're actually fulfilled in. I had multiple offers. And kind of coming out, you know, learning that the money was great, but didn't love what I was doing. And it's really hard to go through life when you're kind of dreading going to work every day and you're just kind of going through the motions. You don't really want to live that way. So take up what you can. Just put in the work. Do the stuff nobody else is willing to do, and it'll take you a lot further than you think. And connections are everything. You know, like this, meeting people just through social media that you know.
I did it the old way. I emailed you.
Yeah.
And I even look back on my email.
Yes, good stuff. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have.
Well, thank you, Trent.
Appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming out. And if there's anything you guys want to see, by all means, we can go around, show you any of the equipment, and go from there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.